Alrighty, glad to see you guys all back in here for another live stream here on the channel. Hopefully everybody is having a great day. I know the day's pretty much over, so I hope you all had a great day. And yeah, let's see who's in the chat. I'm going to start from as far up as I can go here. So we have, let's see, we have Caleb, we have Jonathan, we have Ben, we have Legacy, Storm Chaser, we have Sam, Catman. If I go down a little bit further, Philip, Timmer, Pez, glad to see you guys all in here, as well as everybody else who is watching, may not be chatting, or anyone I might have missed. Brian, Miss Parker, glad to see you guys all in here. Matt as well. Let's go ahead and switch on over to our main screen here. I'm just going to do my check, make sure everything's good, like, you know, yesterday, because everything wasn't good yesterday. So, yeah, let's go right ahead and dive on into this. This is your model runs that are currently rendering in. Now, this is your 12Z, but we actually have our newest model runs. Our 18Z data is already coming in here because we are starting at 7 o'clock as opposed to 6 o'clock. So that's a little bonus we have there for starting an hour later than normal. So before we dive on into all of our model data here, let's start off with the officials. That's definitely the place you want to start off with when it comes to these live streams. I try to start off with the official information here. So this is going to be your National Hurricane Center cone of uncertainty for the next few days here. As you can see, this is as of the 5 p.m. Eastern advisory. Milton is now a hurricane. Yesterday when we started our live stream, that was about 25 hours ago, it was actually an extremely low-wind tropical storm. Now it is a mid-tier Category 1 hurricane centered out here, still in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. It is now starting to speed up, and it will continue to speed up until it, of course, maintains that speed that we normally see with hurricanes. This one's probably going to be moving, I don't know, just taking a guess, we'll probably see it move at about 12, 13 miles per hour by the time it gets approaching towards Florida. And yeah, you can see they're now forecasting just like what we said yesterday. I talked about they'd probably end up changing this icon here to an M. This icon yesterday was a Category 1. Now it's actually changed to a, I think a Category 4, if I'm not mistaken. It's actually now changed to a Category 4 hurricane they're predicting in that area. Tropical storm warnings and a hurricane watch is now out for the northern Yucatan Peninsula, as Milton will most likely have a pretty close call with the northern side of the Yucatan Peninsula as it passes just barely off to the north, and then eventually it's going to be heading towards Florida. Before I dive on into Radar Mega so we can look at the intensity of this, I want to show you guys that early arrival of wind speeds. This is what you should base off your preparations being finished at. Not when you start preparations, okay? When you're done. This is when you should be done preparations. So if you're on the west coast of Florida, you need to have your preparations finished by Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. You could see if you're out here in the Yucatan Peninsula, those preparations should already be finished in the northern tip of the Yucatan Peninsula, as those tropical storm warnings have been put out earlier today. And let's go to your rainfall forecast. That's changed quite a bit. You can see we now have a whole lot more orange and yellow up here towards central Florida. That's where, depending on where you are in Orlando, we're looking at 6 to 8 inches of rainfall. But in other areas like the Tampa Bay area, Tampa, you're looking at 8 inches to a foot of rainfall being a possibility out in that region, as well as in far southern Florida, thanks to that frontal boundary that's going to be pushing to the south. Southern Florida will most likely also pick up the potential for up to a foot of rainfall out of this. There's their flash flooding outlook. You can see we have a moderate risk, not only now in the southeastern side of Florida, but also, of course, through the north-central side of Florida as well. This could be pushed slightly to the south, and this moderate risk here may be pushed slightly more to the west. It just depends on our exact trends of what we see over the next 48 hours and what Milton actually ends up doing out there in the Gulf of Mexico. We don't have an exact storm surge number. We only have the storm surge inundation map. We get that earlier, but it's still something we can go off of to give you guys an idea of how much storm surge we're going to expect in a general given area. So Cape Coral actually seems like they may get the worst storm surge out of this, unless we see a quite a big northern uptick here, northern trend. It seems like Cape Coral in the southwestern side of Florida is going to end up with the worst of this storm surge, but because of, Cape Coral, how it has a little bay area in this area, Cape Coral is probably going to end up with the most storm surge out of this system, unless we see a more northern path. And then, of course, Tampa Bay could see more than Cape Coral, but we're generally going to be watching very closely for Cape Coral and the Tampa Bay area. Those are two areas that we'll need to monitor this system extremely closely, as we'll probably end up with some mandatory evacuations soon for some of these areas. I know some areas are already being put under mandatory evacuations right now. But at the moment, you can see a lot of that storm surge is anticipated here in Cape Coral. You can see just how far inland they expect that storm surge to go, well inland into Cape Coral. And I believe portions of Fort Myers is already under evacuation for this upcoming hurricane, or not upcoming hurricane. It is a hurricane now, eventual major hurricane. And you can see up here in Tampa, a lot of storm surge expected in this area too. If you see that red area, that's where you're looking at 9-foot storm surge. That orange area, you're looking at 6-foot storm surge. Yellow, you're looking at 3-foot storm surge. The blue, you're looking at, I believe, a foot or so. Yeah, foot of storm surge there, or a foot of inundation. Areas will most likely experience higher than that. I know for a fact somebody in here, whether that be the Tampa Bay area or the Cape Coral area, is going to end up having the potential for most likely up to 12 feet or 12-foot storm surge. So just keep that in mind. We will eventually end up seeing a forecast where the NHC includes the threat for up to 12-foot storm surge. I don't know about more than that. That's going to come down to the exact path of this storm. But if we switch over here to Radar Omega, just simply because of how this storm's going to approach Florida from the southwest here, that's going to, right off the bat, regardless of if it's a Cat 3, Cat 4, Cat 2, that's going to cause the potential for significant storm surge in western Florida. So that's already a fact, is that we're going to see very significant storm surge in Cape Coral and most likely in Tampa as well. Which area sees more storm surge is going to come down to exactly where this line ends up going to. If this line goes more north towards Clearwater, Tampa is going to get into that, potential for up to 12-foot storm surge. If this line stays where it is now, then it's probably going to end up being north of Cape Coral that ends up with that potential for with that potential for 12-foot storm surge. I'm basing that off of the intensity of what we normally see with Category 3 in this area in Western Florida. And I do want to go over to your model runs here. Actually, let's check this first. So right now, Milton is currently a mid-tier Category 1 hurricane with sustained wind speeds of 85 miles per hour and a central minimum pressure of 983. It is expected to intensify most likely into a Category 2 hurricane by extremely early tomorrow morning. That will most likely end up being a low-end Category 2. And then by tomorrow afternoon, we'll most likely see a mid-tier Category 3 hurricane. And then by tomorrow night, we'll most likely end up with a Category 4 hurricane. And by the time we go into Tuesday morning, this thing will most likely be very close to, if not, we could even get a Category 5 out of this in the south central Gulf of Mexico. And then after that, after about Monday afternoon, Monday evening, as we go into Monday, my bad. After about Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening, we should start to see Milton begin to weaken. You can see their forecast goes from 145 miles per hour sustained down to 140. And then this is your big jump. This is going to be Wednesday at 2 a.m. And look at this. If we go to Wednesday at 2 p.m., 12 hours later, it goes all the way down to a low-end Category 3 hurricane. They are forecasting that dry air and wind shear to be a big, big issue for this system, where we go from potentially, keyword is potentially, a Category 5 hurricane down to a low-end Category 3 hurricane within the span of about 24 hours. So this thing should peak just to the north of the Yucatan Peninsula. And then, like I said, as we go into very, very late Tuesday into early Wednesday, we should see this weaken and then rapidly weaken as we go into Wednesday afternoon and Wednesday evening until it eventually makes landfall. After that, it continues as a Category 1 hurricane well to the west of Bermuda, becoming a post-tropical system. And then west of Bermuda, just a couple, like 100 miles, 260 miles west of Bermuda, it becomes a tropical storm, a very high-end tropical storm. But again, post-tropical, so that's the good news there. A post-tropical storm, they could still bring significant impacts, but the good news is it would be out in the middle of our Western Atlantic basin here. We will keep an eye on Bermuda, just in case Bermuda ends up seeing some impacts from this. But yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye on it. So good news is that this is going to weaken as it approaches Florida, but unfortunately, I have some bad news about this system weakening. Of course, weakening is always a good thing, but because of the front pulling in, watch the size of Milton on this simulated model run. I'll show you the simulated 12Z H-Wharf model. Watch this end up, it will end up growing in size. So you see how you have this very tight, compact core here. And if we pull this out all the way to when this goes towards Florida, yes, it weakens into a low-end Category 3 hurricane before hitting Florida. But look how much larger it is. Look at that massive, massive wind field as it approaches Florida. So it goes from this very compact, extremely intense Category 4, borderline Category 5 hurricane to this weaker, lower-end Category 3 hurricane, but a lot larger. So that should allow for, unfortunately, more impacts. This, even though you may think, low in Category 3, that's not going to be nearly as bad as a Cat 4, it could still end up being just as bad, especially if it's this large, because this large of a Category 3, that would move a lot of water. If we did see this scenario where we had this large of a Category 3 hurricane going just to the north of the Tampa Bay area, the amount of storm surge we'd see in this area would probably be some of the largest surge we've ever seen in the Tampa Bay area. So I want to make that clear too. Just because this system weakens to a Category 3 doesn't mean you shouldn't take it seriously. This system's going to expand as it approaches Florida, thanks to some post-tropical characteristics it may have. But unfortunately, it won't weaken it fast enough to where we don't see, hurricane impacts out there in Florida. So that's why we're already seeing evacuations out on portions of the west coast of Florida, because officials know out there, they already know they know, a Category 3 is no joke at all. It doesn't take a Category 4 hurricane to bring catastrophic storm surge or extremely significant damaging winds or tornadoes out to Florida. So I believe one of the emergency management leaders out there in Florida actually said they are preparing for one of the biggest evacuations ever since 2017. I can't remember what hurricane hit in 2017. I don't want to just ramble off a random name, but they said they're preparing for one of the biggest evacuations ever since 2017 out here in Western Florida. Irma, there you go. I thought it was, but I didn't want to get it wrong. So they're taking it extremely, extremely seriously, and so should you. If you're under those mandatory evacuations, make sure you evacuate. I don't have a list of all the evacuations. Unfortunately, I haven't had much time to get around to that today. Let me see if I can find some evacuations here. This is definitely not most up to date, but we at least have mandatory evacuations out for this region here. So the Bradenton area, coastal areas, as well as Bradenton Beach, Longboat Key, you guys are under mandatory evacuations. The western side of the Tampa Bay area, including Clearwater, Largo, Seminole, you guys are under voluntary evacuations at the moment. That may become mandatory as soon as tomorrow or possibly tonight. Mandatory evacuations also in place out here for coastal areas like Port Richey out here in Western Florida. So there is 3 areas of evacuations. 2 of those are mandatory. 1 is voluntary. Unfortunately, I don't have anything more up to date than that. The last update for that was about an hour and a half ago. So we most likely have a lot more evacuations than that in place. Just make sure, tune into your local officials. Literally just talk to one of your local officials and see if I'm sure if there's a mandatory evacuation in place, you're going to have police patrol in the area and telling you about that mandatory evacuation. So if there is a mandatory evacuation in place, you're most likely going to know at some point. But regardless of if you're under that mandatory evacuation or not, you need to prepare for this hurricane to impact Western Florida as a major hurricane, if not greater than Category 3 intensity. The lower end that we see out of this is a low in Category 3, which is still a very big deal. And like I said, I'll say it again. If you're in an evac zone, please evacuate. Don't wait. I believe those mandatory evacuations will go into effect at 3 p.m. tomorrow. So if you are under those mandatory evacuations, please listen to them. We saw what happened when people didn't listen to those mandatory evacuations during Helene, and you don't want to be caught out here in a hurricane that's potentially stronger than the forecast. And like I said, even if this makes landfall as a low end Category 3, it's still going to be extremely impactful with significant to potential catastrophic storm surge, significant to potentially catastrophic flash flooding, significant damaging winds equivalent of 120 plus mile per hour winds sustained with gusts well exceeding 120 miles per hour. We're going to have a tornado threat as well out here. So it's going to bring multiple hazards just like every hurricane does. Speaking on that tornado threat, I haven't really talked much about it. I didn't talk about it at all in yesterday's live stream. Tomorrow, we don't have much of a tornado threat today. This is today's outlook. No tornado threat in Florida. Tomorrow, no tornado threat. That tornado threat really kicks up on day 3, which is Tuesday. We have a 2% chance for tornadoes out there in this area. So that goes from Fort Lauderdale down towards Key West, all the way north towards Spring Hill, Florida. So we will have a tornado threat present with this. And then, of course, we can't go out to Wednesday, but eventually on Wednesday, we're going to end up seeing a big marginal risk, if not a slight risk, introduced over most of Florida. Most of this area will have some threat of a tornado, whether it be minimal or, a 5% chance for tornadoes. I don't know. I haven't heard much of that. I haven't heard much about that tornado threat, so hopefully it ends up being very minimal. Let's go to our model runs, though, because like I said, we are getting new model run data, and here's your 18Z H-Wharf. The current pressure of this, I've already managed to forget. Current pressure is a 983, most likely actually lower than that. We'll get a new update in less than an hour. So, yeah, your H4 model has us getting down to a 940 millibar. That's a Category 4 hurricane. I'd like to, let me switch to this. Yeah, so this would be a low-wind Category 4 hurricane just to the northwest of the Yucatan Peninsula. Doesn't go out further than that. Let's go to our HAFSB because that one should go out the absolute furthest. Let's see what this shows. This was one of the model runs that showed like a 910 millibar or less in yesterday's live stream. See how low it goes this time. Yeah, I mean, it hovers right around Category 5 strength. I'll have to look. Yeah, this does show a low-wind Category 5 hurricane north of the Yucatan Peninsula on Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. at a 927 millibar. So that would be a Category 5 hurricane if that did happen. But you could look at that. You can already see. Look at the difference between here Tuesday. Actually, this is Wednesday at 5 a.m. Wednesday at 5 a.m. You have this very compact, tight core with extremely strong wind speeds. And if we go to Wednesday early afternoon, you can see that core is already starting to break up. It's tight on the northwestern side, but it already starts to break up on that southern side some. So already evident here on your HAFSB model run of a dry air issue. You can see that here too. Look at that. Of course, this is a simulation of what may happen, but just pointing out that we are expecting a weakening phase with this storm before landfall. So that is, of course, good news. But again, unfortunately, as it does weaken, it's going to expand in size. I may be able to show you that on here potentially. Potentially, I can show you here. So this is your H-Wharf. We're going to do 12Z because our 18Z is not fully in. So this is your 12Z H-Wharf. You can see it has a very compact Category 4 hurricane north of the Yucatan Peninsula. This would be Tuesday, very early Tuesday morning, moving into Tuesday night, still very compact. Wednesday morning, already dry air starts to hurt the system. And look at that. Look how much larger it gets literally in about 24 hours. It goes from this very tight, compact core of Category 4, potentially Category 5. And then 24 hours later, you have this very large wind field now. So that's going to be a big issue. This thing's going to grow potentially rapidly in size as it weakens, thanks to wind shear and specifically dry air. So, again, I don't want you to be too focused on just because it weakens to a Category 3 means I'm going to get absolutely nothing. Don't have that mindset, because you could clearly see, if this does happen where we see a Category 3 hurricane hit west, or rather north of Tampa, you're still going to see very significant impacts in Tampa. So, regardless of how weak this system does get, and where it impacts in western Florida, it's going to bring significant impacts. I don't think it will be able to fight off all the dry air and wind shear. There is a chance that it potentially, it's closer to a mid-tier Cat 3 as opposed to a low-end Cat 3 like the NHC is forecasting. But I personally don't think we'll end up with like a Cat 4 at landfall. I think dry air is going to be able to get a hold of this, which again, I want to reiterate, that will actually increase the wind field span. So it will weaken the system overall, but the area impacted is going to be larger in that case. Which is exactly why, officials were talking about the biggest evacuation ever since 2017 out here in western Florida. There's still a lot of uncertainty on exactly where landfall will be. We haven't pinpointed a landfall. Your uncertainty has definitely shrunk some more. We're really looking at anywhere from barely north of Cape Coral all the way up towards Spring Hill. That whole area has a very high likelihood of seeing landfall. It could be anywhere around that area. So don't pay very close attention to exactly where they have landfall being right now. Right now they have landfall being exactly south of Sarasota. That's going to change. If I turn on your cone of uncertainty, you'll see that cone of uncertainty is very, very large. So they have the potential for landfall anywhere in the southeastern or eastern side of the Big Bend area, all the way down to potentially well south of Cape Coral. Remember, that cone of uncertainty is where the low pressure could track, not where the impacts will be limited to. So impacts could and actually will be felt well outside of that cone, specifically very far south of that cone in all of southern Florida. So just keep in mind that cone is not where your impacts will be limited to. Impacts are going to be felt outside of that. Interesting. Huh. That brings it awfully close towards my neck of the woods. What does the H1 have to say about that? I haven't even looked for my neck of the woods up here in Virginia to see if I might get something about that. Well, your H1 doesn't have as big of a span as your H-Worth, so really can't tell. But it's possible we see some impacts, especially on the coastal areas of the Carolinas. So if you are planning on going out there towards the very coastal areas of the Carolinas as you go into Wednesday and Thursday, take note that we're most likely going to end up having some rip currents out there, some very heavy rainfall. I don't think we'll have much of a storm surge risk in the Carolinas unless something massive changes here because of the way this storm's going to move from southwest to east. Storm surge is typically most significant on the southern and southeastern side, so you don't typically see storm surge that far north of the center. But yeah, right above my face cam is the current look at Milton. Let me just make sure it's fully updated for you guys. It might not be completely updated. Okay, there's your completely updated one. We got 2 new scans. So that was literally, that new scan was just about 2 minutes ago. I'll switch y'all on over to that. So, just a blob. I mean, that's, if you're looking for rapid intensification, that's really what you want to see right there. I mean, you've got a lot of convection all around that center and some cooler cloud tops right over that center. Right in the middle of Milton, so that is definitely a sign of rapid intensification that's going to happen overnight. It's not a complete classic look to rapid intensification. We saw that earlier today. We had a very classic look to rapid intensification, but it didn't keep that look there. You can see some new towers going up, actually. New hot towers going up right there on those newest frames. Let's go back on over here. Orlando, yeah, you're definitely going to end up with some impacts out of this. It's going to be, for Orlando, it's going to end up being a lot more significant than what Helene was. I can tell you that right off the bat. You're going to most likely end up being in near the direct path of Milton. So if you're in Orlando, I would suggest preparing for impacts equivalent of hurricane force wind speeds, 8 inches of rainfall, the threat for a few tornadoes, and that's probably your main threats there. Significant flooding, hurricane force wind speeds, and a couple tornadoes, all possible on Wednesday evening, most likely. And now it does, of course, depend exactly where this goes, because if what the NHC's forecasting does actually happen and what these model runs also are saying ends up happening, you know, you could be south of the main impacts like this. See where your main eye wall ends up going to the north of Orlando. So it depends exactly where it goes, but regardless, Orlando's going to end up getting a lot of rainfall, the threat for tornadoes, and definitely the threat for hurricane force wind speeds. But it does depend exactly where that tracks. You know, your significant flash flooding, potentially catastrophic flash flooding, will be limited to mainly exactly where that eye wall tracks once we have landfall. Wherever landfall will be, like I said, landfall varies differently between these model runs. Here's your HMON. This is going to show a different scenario. Yeah, you can see that that's considerably weaker as it moves on shore, but still all your flash flooding, in this case, moves it all the way up to Jacksonville. So, yeah, just know there's definitely a lot of different scenarios. There's a lot of different scenarios. But I appreciate you guys all being here. Of course, we're nowhere even close to the live stream, but if you can, just hit that like button. Share the stream with your family, friends, social media, especially anybody you know out here in Florida, so we can reach this information to as many people as possible. Make sure everyone knows this hurricane is heading towards Florida. I do believe we have Recon in this now. We have Recon mission number 5. So let's go ahead and pull that up here on Radar Omega. Let's go ahead and pull that up right now. I'm going to switch over to your infrared satellite imagery. We're going to go over here, turn this off. We're going to go to your hurricane hunters, and we're going to go to potentially this one. Okay, no, it's going to be this one. Yeah, they just went through the center here. So we're going to look for a millibar, see if we can get low to, oh yeah, there you go, 970, about 979 there. So yeah, that's deepening. That is stronger. They probably won't drop it all the way to 979 on the newest update, but we'll probably end up seeing it drop all the way down to 980 millibar, unless Recon can find something lower than that in the next 30 minutes. But yeah, 979 is 4 millibars lower than the current intensity. In terms of wind speeds, we're not really going to see the wind speeds too well on this website, so let me go over to Tropical Tidbits. I'm going to tell you guys what not we are looking for. So we're looking for flight, keyword here is flight level wind speeds above 75 knots in order to indicate that this thing has strengthened. So if we get something 80 knot plus, that would indicate this is strengthened. Of course, 80 knot flight level wind speeds is completely different than surface. Category 5 is not expected, but it's 100% a possibility. It is definitely a very real possibility, unless they put out their update. Did they put out their update? No. Yeah, we're not expecting a Category 5, but it's definitely possible. It's definitely possible. 2 big key things that I want you to remember about the intensity of Milton here. The first thing is its peak intensity will be north of the Yucatan Peninsula, somewhere generally in here. That's when it will most likely hit mid to high in Category 4 status or Category 5 status. And as it approaches Florida, it's going to weaken. There's definitely a big question mark on how much it will weaken, but it's going to weaken as it approaches Florida. I also want you to remember that. However, once it weakens and as it starts weakening, the Windfield is most likely going to grow very rapidly in size. Very, very rapidly. I showed you guys that on a model, and I'll show that again for anyone who may have missed it. We'll go over to our H-Wharf. And again, I'll show you very compact Category 4, Category 5 on this model run, moving through just north of the Yucatan Peninsula, and then watch it weaken as it's well to the southwest of Tampa. Right on this next frame, boom, there goes their whole southern eye wall, and it grows rapidly in size. And you can see it goes from this compact, very compact eye wall. We'll just measure it here, see what this model run simulates. About 78 miles from northwest to southeast for the eye wall when it peaks at its greatest intensity. And then once it hits just to the west, or once it hits Florida, that eye wall expands all the way to near 100 miles. So like I said, it's going to grow most likely quite rapidly in size. However, it's going to weaken as it approaches land too. So yes, it's going to weaken, but it's also going to still bring those very significant impacts, because if the system ends up being larger at landfall, then of course that means greater storm surge and greater wind, greater area. What am I trying to say here? more people being impacted by hurricane force wind speeds. But the biggest thing with a bigger hurricane as a whole is that storm surge. I mean, if you get a big hurricane, you get bigger storm surge and higher storm surge. Like I said, storm surge is most likely going to approach up to about 12 feet, either in the Tampa Bay area or Cape Coral. It depends on exactly where it makes landfall. There's still a question mark on that as well. We do know that landfall will be somewhere generally between north of Spring Hill all the way down to probably north of Cape Coral. That's where you have your most likely scenarios for landfall to be. The NHC has really gone right in the middle of that, putting their prediction for landfall just barely south of Sarasota. Again, don't pay too much attention to exactly where they have landfall being because it will change. It's going to change literally in 20 minutes when they issue their next advisory. Just prepare for major hurricane impacts if you live anywhere in this area of Florida. Maybe even more south than that as well. So there's your official National Hurricane Center cone with your intensity as well. Again, currently a Category 1. It will be a Category 2 tomorrow morning, Category 3 tomorrow afternoon, Category 4 Tuesday morning, mid-tier Category 4, potentially a Category 5 Tuesday evening, weakens towards a mid to lower tier Category 4 Wednesday morning, and then weakens to a mid to lower in Category 3 by the time we see landfall Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening. And then, of course, like I said, it becomes a post-tropical system on both of these points. This would be a Category 1 hurricane. This would be a tropical storm, but it would both of these would be post-tropical because that front gets a hold of it. That front gets a hold of it, our cold front, and that ends up helping it to become more cold cored, which, of course, will allow for this thing to weaken extremely rapidly after landfall. So it's going to weaken before landfall quite a bit and then weaken tremendously after landfall, especially as it leaves Florida. It's going to go from potentially a Category 3 at landfall all the way down to a low-end Category 1 east of Florida. All right, let's go ahead and take a look here. We're going to pay attention to our hurricane models now because they should all be rendering in and starting to finish rendering in, hopefully starting to finish rendering in now. This is your HAFSB. I'm going to refresh. I don't like this. I want to go to your, there you go. Yep, so, oh, wow. That would be a low to mid-tier Category 3, but the first thing I noted with this is it is definitely one of our more worst-case scenarios with this going just barely north of Tampa. This would be potentially historic for storm surge in the Tampa Bay area if that did happen. That's your 12Z. This is your 18Z. I mean, literally, that's going to be landfall like right over Clearwater, which is just north of Tampa, which would literally be a worst-case scenario for storm surge there in the Tampa Bay area. But this is just one model run. We'll see what all of our other model data has. This is your HWRF 18Z. Let's go see what that says. That, of course, hasn't rendered all the way in towards a landfall. But your HWRF has this peaking, unless it drops considerably over the next few frames here. It has it peaking at a high-end Category 4. Your HAFSB, I believe, had this peaking at Cat 5. Yep, peaked at Cat 5 for your HAFSB. HAFSA. Oh, whoa! 918, all the way down to 918 right there. That definitely peaks at Category 5 right there. If this were to happen... let's see. If this were to happen, it'd have sustained wind speeds of potentially 165 miles per hour. But again, thankfully, this is going to weaken on approach to Florida. We'll see how much this model run weakens it. There's your newest frame there. Yeah, look at that. Look at the difference. Look at the difference here. Goes from a very compact Category 5, 920 millibar at 8 a.m. Wednesday morning, Wednesday evening, all the way down to technically all the way up to a 941 millibar, and it's a lot more widespread. Look at the pink. Look at the pink. The pink is your hurricane force wind speeds. Well, really the dark red is this dark red here and this dark red here. That's your low end category 1 hurricane force wind speeds. But just watch how much that expands over these like 4 to 5 frames. That's what I'm talking about. Your hurricane force wind speeds goes from really compact to about this large here. And then if we pull this forward, look at that. Your HAFSA has hurricane force wind speeds all the way out here, just like this. So much, much larger. That's what I'm talking about, is as this weakens, as dry air gets into the system, it's going to expand its wind field much larger on approach to Florida, which in return, unfortunately, will result in more significant impacts for Florida, specifically storm surge. Larger your hurricane, the higher your storm surge will be. Let's go ahead and go back to our... Actually, let's go to our HMON here. See if that has a similar scenario. Woo! I cannot tell you if that did happen. It would still be significant, but that is a better, definitely not by any means the best case scenario. But that would be better because this actually has landfall at like a mid-tier Cat 2. Still, Tampa Bay would still see significant storm surge from this if this were to happen. But that is definitely one of the better case scenarios I've seen from a model run. Oh, look at that! Holy moly! That peaked at 915. That's a new low millibar for our 18Z models. Does this have precipitation or no? I don't think it does. Oh, it does, right there. Yeah, look at how much that weakens. It barely has an eye wall as it moves on shore. So this model run has that dry air just being such a big issue that the dry air really eats... it essentially eats the whole system. I mean, look at this. You really only have precipitation on the northeast side here on your HMON model. Most of your southern side is a lot weaker and has minimal rainfall. This model run's probably handling it pretty poorly. It's probably handling it pretty poorly here. I don't think this will be what actually happens, unfortunately. Like I said, if this did happen, it would be a better case scenario. It would be a better case scenario with this storm completely weakening on the east, southeast side, southern side, western side. Still intact on the northern side, though. HAFSA model. Curious to see. Again, between all of our model runs, I mean, everyone has it weakening on approach. HAFSA, it's open to dry air on the southeast side. HWRF, oh, it doesn't go out too far just yet. Well, HAFSA, it's open to the southeast side. HMON, we already know it's open to the southeast side, almost all quadrants. HAFSB, it is also... Wait for it to load. This one is apparently very slow. Also, as you can see there, open on the southeast side. So we're going to wait for our HWRF model run to come through, see if it opens up on the southeast side. But hopefully, fingers crossed, this does weaken significantly before it ends up hitting Florida. I appreciate all of you guys being in here. Just over 300 people currently in the live stream. If you guys can hit that like button, try to get it up to 150 likes, that'd be greatly appreciated. Hitting that like button helps us spread this information to more people, pushes us out to the YouTube algorithm. And if you're new to the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button. It's greatly appreciated. Unfortunately, I've timed a break pretty poorly here. I'm going to try to go live Tuesday night for you guys on YouTube Shorts, but unfortunately, I've timed a break very poorly. Let's see the new Recon data. Yeah, like I said, so Recon did find a millibar of 978. $978 millibars, so that is 5 millibars lower. But they'll probably end up going a little higher than that and actually putting the new advisory at 980 or 979. What is the chance of this becoming Cat 5? It's going to be, so it's either going to be like very close to Cat 5 or it will be Cat 5. It's going to be right on that threshold. It will be right on that threshold. It's either going to be like a 145, 150, 155 Cat 4, or it's going to end up being a 160 mile an hour Cat 5. It just depends on what the NHC ends up doing at that time and what Recon finds. So, it's really going to be a 50-50. I mean, it's literally going to be a 50-50. At the moment, the NHC is forecasting 145 mile per hour winds for peak. That's a near high-end Cat 4. So it's definitely a real possibility north of the Yucatan Peninsula. But again, if we do see a Cat 5 peak in this area, that's going to be well to the southwest of Florida, and it would still weaken on approach to Florida. Even if this does become a Category 5 hurricane north of the Yucatan Peninsula, regardless of what happens, it will weaken as it moves towards Florida. But the big question is, how much will it weaken? Will it be more like the HMON model where this thing goes from Cat 4 to Cat 2 before landfall? Or will it be more like our other model runs where it goes from a Cat 4 to a mid to low-end Cat 3 before landfall? So we'll just have to keep a very close eye on our model data, watch the NHC very closely, see what they think about this new model data, as well as what they think about that about what Recon's receiving there with a lower pressure. They may be going through the southeastern eye wall. I'm going to quickly go check. See if they're through the southeastern eye wall yet. Okay, they are. They found flight level wind speeds of 75 knots. So they found 75 knot flight level wind speeds. Let's see here. So I think that would be equivalent to near what they have right now. They have it at 85 miles per hour. I think surface wind speeds, that'd be right about 85 miles per hour sustained. So I don't think that that new pass shows much strengthening in terms of the wind speeds, but the millibar did drop by about 4 or 5 millibars there. Let me go back over here. There we go. More frames here on our H-Wharf. I do not want a sounding here. So continues to weaken it. So your H-Wharf model run, let me just go back here so I can double check. Yeah, your H-Wharf model run shows a very high-end Cat 4 at peak, likely 150, 155 sustained. Your HMON model run, we're just going to go through all of them again. HMON shows a very, very high-end Category 4, 155 miles per hour sustained at peak. HAFSA, that's going to show a Category 5 hurricane with sustained winds of 160, maybe 165 at peak. Yeah, that'd most likely be 165 at peak there due to that millibar. HAFSB, this one. HAFSB also has a Category 5 sustained winds of 160. So it looks like both of our HAFS model runs, they both have a Category 5, low-end Cat 5. Our H1 and H-Wharf both have a very high-end Cat 4. So, like I said, this thing's going to be a borderline Category 5, if not a Category 5. Let's see here. So this would be, like I said, so this is your H-Wharf model run. I don't think it's going to take that northern turn. I don't really know why the H-Wharf model run has a more northern event here into the Carolinas. I don't believe that will happen. What does the GFS think about that? Let's look at the GFS. I know that's like the worst thing to look at. Yeah, see, I think something more like what the GFS has will happen, where we see just the very coastal areas ending up with rainfall. Very coastal Carolinas. I don't think we're going to end up with a bunch of rain all the way towards, like, into the Eastern Triad there. The reason why I was talking about that is because, like I said, obviously I have a lot of friends in North Carolina. I'm in Virginia. So I'm going to keep an eye on it for my area, but I highly doubt I'll end up with much of anything. This is your new H-Warf on Radar Omega here. And it doesn't go too far out to when that dry air really gets into it, but you can see that eye wall expands. It comes from this very compact eye wall and then moves all the way towards the northeast, of course, west of Florida, once it starts to grow that eye wall more to the north-northwest. Did it move more south? Depends on what you mean more south. I mean, compared to like yesterday's advisories, it barely moved more south. Yesterday, I believe the NHC had landfall being near Clearwater. Now they have landfall being in Sarasota. So, yeah, the NHC's track did move a little more south, but again, it really anywhere between Cape Coral all the way up towards Spring Hill, that whole area could see landfall. So yeah, just again, make sure preparations are happening right now if you do live in this cone, anywhere in the cone of uncertainty. Also outside the cone, for Fort Lauderdale, Miami, even though you're outside that cone of uncertainty, you're going to feel impacts. So make sure you are preparing for tropical storm force impacts in far southern Florida. Hurricane impacts will most likely be felt from near Cape Coral all the way up towards Spring Hill and more inland as well, wherever that tracks. Because this system's going to be moving and I should say, it's going to be speeding up right as it makes landfall. Hurricane force wind speeds will move through most of central Florida wherever it makes landfall. So if it makes landfall just to the south of Sarasota, you're going to have hurricane force wind speeds all the way from near Spring Hill through Orlando, all the way south towards near Cape Coral. It's going to move all the way through Florida and then ends up speeding up as it goes past Florida too. So yeah, just want to be ready for hurricane force wind speeds. If you're in that cone of uncertainty, you want to be ready for hurricane force wind speeds. Just prepare for a hurricane. If you're out of that cone, you still want to prepare for the potential of hurricane force wind gusts and tropical storm wind speeds. I don't think we'll actually see hurricane wind speeds as far south as Miami, but regardless, you do still want to prepare. If we do see this track as far south as Cape Coral, that would put Miami in more of an impact area. Again, keep in mind, impacts are going to be felt outside of the cone. Areas up here towards like southeastern Georgia, you guys are going to end up getting rain out of this. Well to the east of Tallahassee, you guys are still going to see some very minor impacts out of this. Miami, Fort Lauderdale, you guys are going to end up with quite significant rainfall totals out there. So I just want to reiterate, impacts will be felt outside that cone of uncertainty. And yeah, if you're on the coastal areas here, Naples up through Cape Coral, Tampa, Spring Hill, where we're thinking landfall could end up being, make sure you prepare for major hurricane force wind speeds. And of course, if you're anywhere along the western coastline of Florida here, make sure you are checking in on an hourly basis for your evacuation zones and checking with local officials on those mandatory and voluntary evacuation orders that are coming out literally most likely every hour. I'm pretty sure we're going to be seeing those come out nearly every hour tomorrow. We're going to see more and more come out. State of emergencies were expanded. I don't know exactly where they end, but they end somewhere up here. I don't know exactly where, but generally at that blue line, anywhere east and south of that is under a state of emergency. I'm gonna just go check real quick. I know they expanded that, so let me just go check for y'all. We're gonna go all the way to here. I know it's pretty much the entire peninsula of Florida. I almost got it right. I almost got it right. It's one more county to the west. So this whole area here is under a state of emergency in Florida. So that includes, if we zoom in, Perry, Madison, Jasper, Live Oak, Cross City, Lake City, Jacksonville, Gainesville, and everywhere pointing south all the way till you get to Key West. Key West also under that state of emergency. Rapid intensification is definitely well underway. I mean, you could just see from the satellite imagery above my face cam there, we're definitely seeing rapid intensification now. We've most likely been seeing that probably ever since about 2 p.m. Earlier today, and we'll see that rapid intensification phase all the way up till very late Tuesday. All right, let's see Recon again. I know we're about to get another Recon aircraft into this. We have Recon 4 and Recon 5. Recon 5 has already passed through both eye walls as well as the center. Recon 4 is entering the north side of, what's this thing's name? Milton. There we go. Milton. And here comes the new NHC advisory right now. Minimum pressure down to a 981 with wind speeds still at 85 miles per hour. So like I said, they did drop that millibar just a bit, only by 2 millibars. I actually thought they dropped that down to 980. So they dropped that down to 981 and the wind speed stayed the same, just like I was expecting. So yeah, we'll see if they changed anything with the cone once that eventually comes in here. It doesn't look like it on my end, but we'll see what it shows on Radar Mega. Will there be surge on the east coast of Florida? Probably some surge, but I imagine it won't be anything close to what western Florida will see. It's not that common for the east side of Florida to see a lot of storm surge. The only time I can remember storm surge on the east coast of Florida was when we had like a Category 3 move from out here in the Atlantic Basin right towards Miami. But yeah, you'll probably experience some surge on most of the east coast of Florida. I just don't think it will be anywhere nearly as close to what we'll see in like Tampa and Cape Coral. What surge you could see out there in eastern Florida, I mean, that just really be a guess. So I'm not going to say how much surge you could see out there. Actually, hold on. We might have a map for that. I wonder if this goes to the east coast of Florida. It doesn't go completely to the east coast of Florida, but the very far outer edges east of Palm Bay, so this area here, could see up to a foot of storm surge right now on their storm surge inundation map. However, I'm very confident that's going to change. So, yeah, that area could see a foot of storm surge at the current forecast, but that will change as we get closer. We figure out exactly where it's going to go, exactly where landfall will be, and then wherever, you know, whatever coordinates to that, they'll up that storm surge forecast. But yeah, again, here is a current look at Milton. I actually want to go over to this because this allows me to get my favorite infrared satellite imagery. I think... Oh, shoot. I forgot how I get my favorite satellite. Maybe it's... this? Aha! There you go. Yeah, there you go. Hey, I wonder where the center is. Anybody have a guess? That's what I'm talking about. I mean, we already have a very tight core somewhere in here. Paul, we already got a 8 p.m. update. We just got the 8 p.m. update. They did not change the wind speeds, and they lowered the millibar down to a 981. Let me look at our... yeah, look at that. There you go. They just got a new reading there. 979. 978.3 is the lowest we saw with our other Recon, and it looks like this one's not going to get any lower than that. So, yeah, we saw 978.3. There you go. That's the millibar we saw lowest with this Recon aircraft. But they ended up putting that millibar to 981. What wind speeds did they... Okay, they didn't really get that strong of wind speeds on the northern side. The southern side is where your wind speeds seem to be. I didn't look exactly what our strongest wind speeds were in the southeast side. I think it was somewhere very close to 75. 71. Okay, apparently it was 71 knots. We might have saw slightly higher than that. But right around 71 knots on the southeast side. Which is equivalent to about 80-85 miles per hour sustained at surface. We are losing our daylight out here. So let me see if I can push this back to the last time we saw the sun. Yeah, 50 frames ago, this was our last view of daylight out here over Milton. Let me go back further than that. And there you go. You can see literally as the sun was setting, look at all these new towers that popped up right as the sun was starting to set out here. You just have a bunch of towers that were going up. Bunch of hot towers. But yeah, we're just going to continue to keep a very, very close eye on our satellite imagery, and especially watch this convection here to see if this convection can continue to wrap around. We saw that earlier today. Earlier today, for about an hour or so, we saw convection wrap around the low pressure, but I don't know exactly what happened. We had some issues with the southeast side, and that ended up delaying, that, you know, classic look to rapid intensification that we're expecting to see, that we're actually seeing now. I mean, this is definitely, it's been rapidly intensifying, but if we see convection like this that wraps around that low pressure center, that's how you see storms go from like a Cat 1 to a Cat 3 in less than 24 hours. Tomorrow, you know, that is actually a good question from myself. They're forecasting this at 8 p.m. So 8 p.m. tomorrow, 24 hours from now, this will probably be a very high-end Category 3. No, it's probably going to be a low-end Category 4 tomorrow at this time. So we're going to go from a mid-tier Category 1 to a low-end Category 4 in 24 hours. And that is definitely rapid intensification. I don't think they've updated this cone just yet, at least from Radar Omega. I don't think they've updated that. So I'm going to go to the NHC here and go to their interactive cone, because they have updated that to see if they change the wind speed. So they have 125, 140, and they have 145 at peak. So it looks like the cone has changed pretty much not at all. They still have landfall barely south of Sarasota. It still seems like the same intensity on the forecast for our cone. Still tropical storm warnings and hurricane watches out for the northern Yucatan Peninsula. So it looks like very minimal change on the 8 o'clock advisory, except just a 2 millibar drop. Which is, again, I will say this, that is, that is indicating a strengthening, of course. So definitely not a good comparison, but something you can kind of just remind yourself of how bad Category 3s can be. Remember, Katrina made landfall as a Category 3 hurricane. I'm not comparing this directly to Katrina, okay? But just to say, Katrina peaked at Category 5 in the central Gulf of Mexico, and by the time it moved onshore, it was actually a Category 3. I don't think we're definitely not going to have the same scenario here because, our landfall is definitely going to be in Florida, not Louisiana. But Katrina was one of the worst hurricanes to ever happen, and it is the worst hurricane to ever happen in Louisiana. And like I said, it made landfall as a Category 3, but peaked at Category 5, and it's kind of the same, the same intensity with this one. We're going to see a peak at Cat 5 or I can't say we're going to, but we're going to see a peak at like high-end Cat 4, maybe pushing low-end Cat 5 here. And then it's going to weaken into a mid to low-end Cat 3 before landfall near Tampa. But yeah, just to kind of make sure that this storm weakening to a Cat 3, yes, it does definitely make a difference, but this thing's going to weaken to a Category 3, and its wind field is going to expand rapidly. It will expand rapidly. It's going to go from this tight chord, high-end Cat 4, low-end Cat 5, to a very large Category 3 by the time we see landfall. I wish I could show you guys a map from like I wish the NHC would have something like that so I could show you how much it's going to expand, because it will expand. Unless that core just never gets dry air into it, which is nearly impossible, then this is going to, it will expand. So just like your H-Wharf model shows, this is your H-Wharf 18Z model run. You can see this very tight chord, low end, category. Actually, this is high-end Cat 4. High-end Cat 4 on your H-Wharf model run. And watch that wind field expand very, very, very rapidly on approach to Florida. Again, I mean, we'll draw this here. You go from this very tight chord, very, very tight chord, category, high-end Category 4. I'll try to draw a better circle than that. I know it still wasn't the best, but you could try to get the gist here. And then once it nears landfall, look how much that wind field expand. It expanded all the way out to here for hurricane force wind speeds. Literally nearly doubled on your H-Wharf model run. Nearly doubled in just wind field size. But it definitely got a lot weaker. It went from a very high-end Cat 4 to a low-end Cat 3. I think we're only waiting. What? I think we're only waiting on the H-Wharf to show landfall here. On the 18Z, I'm pretty sure we looked at this one. You can see, gracious. That'd literally be a worst case scenario for Tampa. A Category 3 expanding wind field just north of Tampa. That would allow for, most likely, unfortunately, catastrophic storm surge in the Tampa Bay area. That's your HAFSB, HAFSA model run. See if that shows. Wow, nearly the same scenario on your HAFSA and B model run. Your HMON is definitely more north, and your H-Wharf is also more north. So, two of our model runs agree landfall just north of Tampa, and then the other two of our main hurricane models agree on a landfall closer to like southeast of Cedar Key. I don't know exactly any areas in that area. That would be like the west of the Crystal River or so. Proxy, thank you for continuing your membership for 8 months now as an EF4 member. Greatly appreciated. Saying happy and proud to be a supporter. Well, glad to have you here. Thankfully, you're definitely not going to be feeling any impacts from this system. That's for sure. This thing is not going to make it anywhere close to Ohio. Should I go take a peek out the window real quick? I'll be right back. I'll be right back. See if I can see some auroras. Man, nothing at all. Oh, you told me? No, I wasn't. I don't read chat. Read chat? No. That's not what I do. I don't read chat. Alright, let's go back to our... Oh, man. Look at that. This thing is intensifying really quickly. That's just your last 7 frames right there, so your last, like, 5-ish minutes. That is not a good sign. Just in case you thought that was a good sign, it is not a good sign. That's exactly what we look for extreme rapid intensification. This is the classic sign of I'm literally about to explode and rapidly intensify. Thankfully, it's in the middle of nowhere in the Gulf of Mexico. But gracious, I mean, that's what we saw. That's what we saw maybe like 9 hours ago. I'm trying to think of general time of when I looked at satellite, probably about 8-9 hours ago. And I don't think it's going to fail this time. I don't think it's going to fail this time. And again, just look at that. This is where your hurricane force wind speeds are probably going to be limited to like this tiny little area here. That's going to expand big time as it gets towards, towards Tampa. But yeah, like I said, unfortunately, I timed a break pretty poorly, so I won't be live tomorrow, most likely at all. I'm going to try to go live for, unfortunately, I'll probably only do about an hour or so Tuesday, and then if I can, y'all, I'll try my best to stream Wednesday. But I just chose the wrong time to take a break. I apologize. Never count on just one source. That's what I haven't said that in a while, but I try to say that. Never just count on one person, don't just count on me. Don't just count on another YouTuber. Make sure you count on like the National Weather Service, National Hurricane Center. You also have other sources too, like the CPC, other official sources. So, don't just have don't just have one way to like receive watches and warnings, but that's lightning in the eye wall. That is the first time I've seen lightning in this thing's eye wall. Wow. Yeah. That is crazy. That is crazy. Not good news. This thing is definitely rapidly intensifying. How do you spell this thing's name here? Milton. Okay. That's not difficult at all. I will remember that for about 2 seconds. Let's see. That is crazy. We already have lightning. I really wasn't expecting to see lightning, to be honest with you. Let's go read their discussion here. The NHC has a discussion that we haven't looked at. Let's see if I can find this. All right. I'm just going to skim through this. All right. I'm going to go ahead and put this over here for you guys to read too, so that way you know I'm not just... Oh, well, thank you, Proxy, for the $50 donation. Greatly appreciated. I just went back to the chat and saw that. Thanks for doing your usual excellent job, keeping us informed. You rock, TRG. Well, thank you so much, Proxy, for the kind words and the $50 donation. Greatly, greatly, greatly appreciated. Unfortunately, I don't have 4 monitors, so I can't keep chat up the whole live stream. But again, I do appreciate that $50 donation. And hopefully all is going well up there in Ohio. I hope you didn't see much severe weather today. I think most of it stayed to the east. But yeah, let's go ahead and read this. Let's see how well I can follow this with my my highlighter. The intensity forecast appears straightforward at first, with rapid intensification likely while the small hurricane remains within light shear. Oh, the small hurricane. I like how they refer to it as the small hurricane. Remains within light shear and over very deep warm waters. Intensity guidance is almost as bullish as I've seen in this part of the basin, with almost everything showing a peak intensity of category 4 or 5 in the southern Gulf of Mexico in a day or two. The NHC forecast is raised from the previous one, which this is actually your 5 o'clock discussion, so raised from the 2 o'clock advisory, and it was raised here on the 5 o'clock advisory, not the 8 o'clock, and lies near the intensity. I'm not going to try to pronounce that because I'll butcher it. I can say it in my head, but I can't say it out loud. Model and still could be too low. That's crazy. Look at that. It still could be too low for intensity. So they may even increase this further on more updates later on tonight or tomorrow. Let's see. Do I really need to read all this? Later on, the vertical wind shear is forecasted to markedly increase as Milton approaches Florida, and some weakening is anticipated. However, the regional hurricane models are showing the system growing even larger as if it weakens. Oh, there you go. That's exactly what I talked about in most of this live stream. Models are showing the system growing even larger if it weakens. That's another key point right there. And we are expecting Milton to be a large hurricane at landfall with very large, or rather very dangerous impacts spread out over a big area. There is increasing confidence that a powerful hurricane with life-threatening hazards will be affecting portions of the Florida West Coast around the middle portion of this week. Residents there should closely monitor this system and listen to local officials. So, yeah, key messages from this definitely is the forecast is potentially still too low. It's going to be a large hurricane at landfall, and they are still, they're of course still confident in a powerful hurricane with life-threatening hazards that will affect Florida's west coast around the middle portion of this week, as well as this too. Where is it? Yeah, right here. Right here. Intensity guidance is about as bullish as I've seen in this part of the basin, with almost everything showing peak intensity of category 4, category 5 in the southern Gulf of Mexico in a day or two. So quite a few big notes there from the National Hurricane Center's discussion at the 5 o'clock advisory. But let me go ahead and do this. Pull this over here. We're going to close this out. We're going to close this out. Close this out. Go back over here. And I think I'm going to keep this one up. Did I see the CC drop? No. I indeed did not. I did not. Oh, shoot. You're talking, like, recently? Oh, shoot. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So, northeast of Pittsburgh, Wexford, most likely had an unwarned tornado ongoing not that long ago. That is definitely a debris signature. Potentially, we'll go look at how high up our debris was lofted with our analysis radar really quick. Let's go see really fast. Go ahead and load up some more loops. There we go. Okay, so debris wasn't as big as I originally thought once I was looking at Radar Omega. So that's definitely a tornado. Definitely a tornado. It's on the weaker side, but I mean, gracious day, in order for it to pick up on radar, it's got to be a decent sized tornado, and there you go. Also on ZDR, reflectivity, NROT. I mean, you literally had the whole shebang right here over Wexford, so definitely had. Oh, look at that, a reflectivity debris ball too. Yeah, you definitely had a tornado unwarned here. The crazy thing is, Pittsburgh put a severe warning on this as that tornado was most likely lifting. So they obviously saw the storm. Please tell me they at least put it as tor possible. Oh, wow, that's crazy. That's Pittsburgh for you. Normally they actually do extremely well there. That's one of the first unwarned tornadoes I've seen in a long time in Pittsburgh. But that was definitely an unwarned tornado. Yep. Let me go over here. I'm going to quickly get a tweet out on this. Boom, boom. This was approximately 15 minutes ago. No, I don't want that. This is going to be Wexford, PA. About 15 minutes ago. There you go. That was definitely a tornado. Confirmed from reflectivity, velocity, CC, ZDR. You know what? I didn't check spectrum with, but I mean, that's not really something you have to yet. There you go. It's on spectrum with too. There you go. That's your tornado. So very clear as day on all products. Definitely not something that's just a light signature there. I mean, that was definitely a good signature for about 3-4 scans. So we'll keep an eye on that because it could do it again. It still has a good arc to it. So if you are watching the live stream from this general vicinity on the northeastern side of Pittsburgh, northeast of Pittsburgh as well, we could still see a tornado touchdown as it's moving to the southeast. Still has a very weak couplet with it, but it has an okay look to it. If we go to ZDR, you can see, wow, very well-defined ZDR arc right there. Especially right here in the red. That is a really well-defined ZDR arc. That's a classic ZDR arc right there. Not classic for a hook echo, but man, that's impressive. Thank you for bringing that to my attention, Caden. Much appreciated. Back over to lightning galore in the eye wall of Milton right now. Gracious. That's got to be at least 20 lightning strikes right there. Wow. A bunch of people in Virginia are seeing the northern lights right now. Let me see if I can... Give me just a moment. Okay. I would have known about that if there was a tornado warning issued, because I do have this software up which will beep at me. Let me just do this. Sorry, y'all. I've became distracted now. But yeah, there's your last 30 frames of Milton. It is definitely rapidly intensifying. I mean, that is a very classic look for rapid intensification. We'll see how that progresses over the next couple hours. Gracious day. Talk about an explosion. Let me go over to Tropical Tidbits, because I know Tropical Tidbits has the best nocturnal visible satellite imagery. Unfortunately, they don't have it on the mesosectors, so I can't get it as a high-definition picture. I'll wait for it to load. Yeah, because it's not a meso floater, it's actually not the best. But yeah, this is, you can see what it looks like on the visible satellite imagery. It is dark out, unfortunately, but you can see it above my face cam. That's your big convecutive tower right there. It's really, really difficult to see. Even if I full screened it, it'd be really difficult to see. You may be able to now, Legacy, if you go outside, take a picture with a camera. I don't know, though. I wasn't looking at it at all. I thought it busted. I thought the Northern Lights busted. I saw that all over Twitter that it was potentially missing Earth, but I guess it didn't. Maybe that was yesterday's Northern Lights. Gracious. Yeah, so we're going to continue to watch this as it explosively intensifies over the next couple hours. We're probably going to conclude stream soon. I don't want to say when, but we'll conclude not too long from now. So we're going to watch this convecutive tower explode. We did the we already looked over our 18Z model guidance. If you're just now tuning in, I'll go ahead and go over everything for you. So right now we're watching Hurricane Milton as it's or Milton as it's currently rapidly intensifying. It will become a Category 2 overnight and then become a Category 3 tomorrow afternoon. Very, very late tomorrow night into Tuesday morning. It will become a Category 4, hurricane, and then Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening, it's going to make a run for Cat 5 status. Wednesday morning, it's going to begin to weaken from a Category 4 to a Category 3, and then by the time we have landfall sometime Wednesday afternoon, it will most likely be a low to mid-tier Category 3. That's really your primary updates there on Milton. We should have some new... Recon data here. Gracious, couldn't English. Mission 5. Okay, they're both still outside of the eye wall, so we probably won't get that till like 9:30 or so. But yeah, if you guys haven't already, like I said, make sure you hit that like button. We're 25 likes away from today's like goal. We hit 150 yesterday, I believe. Someone could go check that. We were literally one off. I'm sure we hit it. So see if we can hit it again on this live stream. And yeah, if you can, go right ahead and share the live stream with your family, friends, social media. We'll be back here Tuesday, unfortunately, from my phone. I'll have my phone and do a live stream on Shorts, so it's going to be lower quality. But, I mean, it's better than nothing. I'd much rather do it on my phone than just not update you guys at all. Let me go over here. Yeah, the eye wall, I'm sure the eye wall's fully closed off. I don't even have to look at the tweet to know that. Cape Coral, Florida, you need to be preparing for a major hurricane now, especially if you're on the coastal areas of Cape Coral. I would prepare for potential evacuations tomorrow. Because we don't know exactly where this thing's going to be making landfall here. Anywhere between near Cape Coral all the way up north towards near Spring Hill could have landfall. Currently, it's forecast to be just south of Sarasota, but it could be absolutely anywhere between, technically, according to the cone of uncertainty, the southeastern Big Bend area all the way down to near Naples, Florida. So just make sure you're ready for major hurricane force impacts if you're anywhere along this whole area. Make sure you're ready for hurricane force impacts if you're anywhere in central Florida, this general vicinity here. And then we'll most likely see tropical storm impacts, for the rest of southern Florida and probably for portions of northern Florida as well. Next update is 5 p.m. 5 p.m. No. 11 p.m. 11 p.m. I'll be up for the 11 p.m. update. Not live streaming, but I will be up for it. And then after that, I'm going to sleep. Let's see. Pez. I mean, yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Let's go to NHC forecast. Okay, look at that. We may be able to see landfall on one of these islands out here. If we do, man, that's going to be a Category 4 status. I wonder if we could actually manage to get that unlucky to where we have a landfall on one of these islands. If that does somehow happen, it would be very late. What? Very late tomorrow, if I'm looking at this right? Yeah, very late tomorrow. Very late tomorrow. That's crazy. Sorry, I was looking at Twitter. Don't believe everything you see on Twitter. That's all I gotta say. Yeah, I don't think this storm's gonna be able to produce another tornado. It still has a chance for it as long as it has that ZDR arc here, or just that general arcing, and it stays relatively clear in this area from precipitation. This will have at least an opportunity to rotate as it moves to the southeast towards White in Pennsylvania. So I know for a fact we had at least one tornado in western PA today. Let's go over to our satellite again. I'm going to take another screenshot of this. I'm going to change my lightning detection to 30 minutes so that way... Or should I do 15? Okay, yeah, 15 is still the best. I was going to change it to 30 so that way these bolts would be more bright, but that didn't work, so... Man, that's a lot of lightning. Milton, there we go. I remembered how to spell Milton. Let's go. I'm texting Lucky. That's just crazy. That is a lot of lightning. Keep in mind, this is still a high-end, or actually mid-tier Category 1. Mid-tier Category 1. Yeah, I saw there was a football game happening out there, Matt. I think it will be clear in Pittsburgh the rest of the day. Yeah, once this line moves through, that's it. I think it's happening in, like, literally downtown Pittsburgh. Or is it just south of Pittsburgh? It might be just southeast of Pittsburgh. I don't know the general... I don't know the landscape out here. It looks like it might be here. Maybe. Maybe. So, yeah. We're just gonna wait here, See if recon models, what the heck? What are recon models? See if recon goes back into this thing. And keep an eye on our current satellite imagery. I'm not gonna probably go over models again. Hold on, I just remembered. I'm sorry, if you like this stuff, I can't. If you like this stuff, man, I don't like this. I don't. I don't see how anyone could like this. Yeah. I mean, what in the world? You like it? Well, point proven, Pez. Point proven. I didn't even know this had smoothing. Oh my goodness! Look at the data difference! Look at the data difference. That's crazy. Full smoothing, no smoothing. I could totally see, you know, if you have one smoothing on, you know, that's fine. I remember back in the day, man, 2 years ago, I loved smoothing. Everything that could have smoothing was just maxed out. Now I hate it. I either hate it or I have it on 1 because it's too pixely. Where's the low pressure? I can't even see the eye anymore. I can't even see the general eye. I mean, of course, we never had an eye poking through. But now it's just a blob of ridiculous thunderstorms. Gracious. And look at that. Look at these new hot towers starting to form here. That is just crazy. This thing is going from full, like, going from about 40% to full 110%. Like, we literally went from minimal convection. If we go... Ooh, I don't know if I could go all the way back. I'll try to, though. Of course, we had convection, just none of this. Not this much convection. Yeah, see, we just went from, like, a big plume of gray and some light red with just some patches of dark red around it. And now, I mean, we have this tight core with just an explosion of convection. I'll be very intrigued to see Recon go into this, if they even do. I would not be surprised if they just don't go into this thing. I say that because, there's a lot of lightning. There's a lot of lightning. We might actually be able to be live for Recon 5 going into the northeast eyewall. No, I do not think this will be Cat 4 at landfall. Nope. I'd say, honestly, I'd say worst case scenario, we see a mid-tier Cat 3 landfall. Or, no, maybe high-end Cat 3. High-end Cat 3 is like your worst case scenario for intensity. I don't see anything higher than that. The most likely scenario is a low-end Cat 3. A more less likely scenario is mid-tier Cat 3. And your worst case scenario is a high-end Cat 3. I just don't see a way how we're looking at anything greater than a Cat 3 for landfall. Now, peak intensity, I do think this will be very close to Cat 5 north of the Yucatan Peninsula, somewhere in here. It's either going to be like 150, 155 Cat 4, or it's going to be 160 Cat 5. So I do think we'll be very close to Cat 5, if not at Cat 5. You can clip it. Sure, clip it. I mean, I'd love to be wrong to where this makes landfall as, like, barely even a tropical storm. Hopefully I won't be wrong in the sense of the wrong direction, and this thing just somehow manages to sustain Cat 4 strength all the way to landfall. What is that model showing? There was a model yesterday that showed, like, a tropical storm landfall. It still shows it. It still shows a high-end tropical storm making landfall in, like, this area, near the Everglades City. Man, that model run is... Watch it be right. That model run is going to be wrong, though. How do I know? Well, because it's legit wrong right now. It thinks the current intensity of Milton is around a 993-ish millibar. Milton's actually already down to 981. So I can tell you that that model run's wrong. Okay, my chat stopped moving. Let me refresh this. Oh. Streamlabs chat? I think Streamlabs chat's breaking. Hey, there we go. Now I can see chat. It was completely broken. Yes, dry air will weaken it. Dry air will weaken it. That is a given. How much it weakens it, that's a question mark. I personally believe it's going to weaken it quite a lot to, like I said, from a Cat 4 all the way down to a low-end Cat 3. But again, when it does weaken it, like the NHC said as well, it is going to expand that Windfield rapidly. That Windfield will go, I don't know how long, I don't know how wide it will be, so I'm not even going to try to estimate. It's just going to go from a more compact core to a very large, widespread, weaker, but still widespread and larger Windfield hurricane. Jacksonville, that's tricky. You could see barely anything, or you could see the eye wall and end up getting significant impacts. But regardless, Jacksonville's in a risk for the potential of significant flash flooding as we go into Wednesday. So flash flooding looks to be your biggest issue. I'm sure you could see sustained wind speeds around 40 miles per hour, gust potentially 60 miles per hour. So that's what I would prepare for in Jacksonville. Cocoa Beach, Florida. Well, good news is you're on the east side, so that's, I mean, right off the bat, that's great news. That means you will be in a better area for impacts. You know, your impacts are going to be more minimalized because you're on the east side, but still, you could see significant flash flooding on Wednesday. Jacksonville, I didn't tell you your rainfall totals, but Jacksonville could see up to 6 inches of rainfall out here. Where was this? Cocoa Beach. Yeah, Cocoa Beach. You could see up to 8 inches of rainfall out there. Tropical storm wind speeds will definitely be a possibility. Like I said, sustained wind speeds 40 miles per hour, gusts potentially 60 miles per hour. A couple tornadoes will also be possible in that area. And if you're on the very coastal areas, we could see storm surge near 1 to 3 feet. That's just guessing off the very early product we have from the NHC. That total could rise up some. It could completely decrease. Tallahassee, I don't think we'll see much. St. Johns County, let's see. So, okay, you're just barely southeast of Jacksonville. Ooh, that's tricky. You could end up getting the eye wall, which could result in hurricane force wind gusts. So, at the moment, I would prepare for 50 mile per hour wind sustained, wind gusts potentially exceeding 70, 80 miles per hour. Rainfall totals could be right around a foot, but it depends on exactly where it goes. That's just too tricky to tell you for sure, but definitely prepare for a lot of impacts out there. You know, significant flash flooding, like I said, up to a foot of rainfall, damaging winds that I already mentioned, and tornadoes can't be ruled out up there either. But it just depends, because if we have landfall out here in like Tampa, the eye wall will track more to the south of Jacksonville, which would result in most of your impacts being south of that area. If it's a little bit more north and we have landfall in like Spring Hill, then this area is going to get into that eye wall and have a lot more impacts. So it's a bit of a tricky situation there. If you're far inland, that's going to be still, you're going to see a lot of impacts more inland if you're talking about Central Florida. You can go for your local officials on that. I don't want to give you that type of information because I don't want to end up being wrong. But I would highly recommend, just basic things. Make sure you have a lot of food that you don't have to heat up, a lot of water, gas in all your vehicles. All electronics are charged. Your family knows about the situation. But as for like boarding up windows and sandbags, you should turn to your local officials for that, because I have no experience in it. And I haven't researched it, so. I don't want to end up touching on a subject and being completely wrong. Let's see if I go back over here to Recon. Come on, Recon, you got this. I believe in you. I only need like one more update. Gracious day, look at this thing. Look at this. This literally happened over the last, like, what, 45 minutes? 45 minutes, this thing's just been exploding. I wonder if we could see it from radar. I don't think there's a way we can. Maybe we could see an outer band from it. Not really. If you look above my face cam, you can see rainfall moving from the northeast to the southwest. I'm going to switch that back over to satellite, if I can find it. Go over here, meso floaters, here. Oh, you know what? Wait, this is actually the best satellite imagery you can have. I just realized College of DuPage has what Tropical Tibbets has, but better. That's definitely not it. I'm just going to look through all these products. My word. Switch all over here to see this with me. So that's your sandwich. Your sandwich product. Gracious day. Just pure red on that one. But yeah, this is the best nocturnal visible satellite. And you can see, look at the convection is so crazy, it just looks like a fizzy white blob right there. You can really get a hold of how crazy that convection is from this the sandwich imagery here, and as well as from, of course, your infrared satellite imagery right there. Oops. Holy crap. Thought I almost hit the end button. That scared me. Streamlabs doesn't give you a warning of hitting the end button there. Like, if you hit it, you're done. So, I've had some close calls to hitting that end button. On accident. Yes, rapid intensification is definitely happening. Come on, Recon. Let me stop this loop. So let me show you where both of our Recons are. So, oh, this one updated. This one updated early. Holy crap, I just got flashbanged. 978.2, 978. That is a lower millibar. That is indeed a lower millibar. So we have a whole, like, 1 millibar lower on that new Recon. And then we'll be getting this Recon too. But it looks like they're not going to go in. It looks like they're going to go up here. So, yeah. I mean, there you go. I don't think we'll really see much of an update. Actually, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what we'll see at the 11 o'clock advisory. This thing could literally explode like it's doing now and intensify quite rapidly within the next 2 hours. So just go and keep an eye on it. But we're not going to stay live here for too much longer. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. We're 132 likes, and we're trying to get to 150. If you haven't already hit that like button, if you can, go ahead and hit it. There won't be a live stream tomorrow, unfortunately, but I will try to live stream from my phone on Tuesday and maybe Wednesday. That'll be a YouTube Shorts live stream, and I don't know what we'll end up doing for that, though. I don't know how I'm going to do that. I guess I'll just figure it out. I'll just figure it out. Yeah, it does have an eye, but not an eye on satellite. It has a lower level eye. Look at that. Look at that. Just a crazy blob of blue convection right there. This is on long wave infrared. Just completely exploded, my word. I will be, yes, Matt. And no, I'm not going to disclose where. I like to live two different lives. One is purely focused on weather on the internet, and then the other one is my actual life. that's that's pretty fun. I like to keep personal life personal. Let's see here. Yeah, they didn't update that product, did they? No, they didn't. But yeah. I appreciate you guys tuning into the live stream. Like I said, we won't be live for much longer. If you'd like to watch some of my other videos, the one I'd recommend is the winter forecast that I uploaded 2 days ago now. That was uploaded, what, like 50 hours ago now at this point. I appreciate the support on that as well. That has over 120 likes now, so I really, really appreciate you guys watching that winter forecast. It is still... it's just reached its peak viewership per hour right now. It got 125 views in the last hour, so I really appreciate all those who are watching that winter forecast. You're very much welcome to go watch it yourself here. And like I said, that's the last video I'll have for a while. We won't have another video out for quite a while because I'll be gone, and then I'll return back here. We're going to plan for a live stream. Fingers crossed we'll be able to go live. I don't know. Maybe, shoot. I don't want to say something too early, but maybe Friday or Saturday I'll end up going live here from, you know, the main computer. But we should have a shorts live stream Tuesday. So, yeah, like I said, I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you guys have any last questions about the system, I don't know where I was gonna go with that, but if you have any last questions here, I'll try my best to answer them. It's already a whole 8:51 and I can't even English. You think I'd be good at these by now? You know, we've been doing 6 o'clock live streams nearly daily for a very long time, and I just still end up not being able to English. Pete, I think Lucky's only going live Tuesday. I believe that is the only day he's going to be live. So, yeah, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Like I said, I'm not going to switch to the scene early like yesterday. What's English? I have no idea. I don't know. Let's see. Hello, Parliament. Glad to see you've risen from the dead again for the 20 billionth time. Well, okay, there you go. I was waiting for Legacy. This is a picture of the Northern Lights here from our mod Legacy. I want to show you guys that. Look at that. This is in Tennessee, Central Tennessee. Why can't I get this? It don't look like that outside. I'm gonna go find out soon, very soon here after stream. I'm running outside. I'm gonna take a picture and see if I can see some Northern Lights out there. So yeah, Northern Lights are visible from a camera all the way down to probably, shoot, I mean, you may be lucky enough to see them in like the northern southern U.S., like northern Alabama, northern Mississippi. I wouldn't be shocked if you guys could see some Northern Lights out there from camera. Now, from just your eye, I'd be shocked if that goes farther south in like Central Virginia and Northern Kentucky, right around there. I don't exactly know where. Let's see here. SWPC. Oh, shoot. It's not even peaking yet. Oh, heck yeah. You bet I am running outside. It's going to peak here in... Based on this map, it should peak about 2:15 UTC. 2:15 UTC. That's... Wow. That's like, what, 10:15? Ah, let's go. Yep, I'm going to go see me some auroras, I hope. Gracious day. That is... Why did I pull out the inspector tool? But that's just like some stubbornly intense convection. My goodness. So this is definitely rapidly intensifying. Rapidly intensifying most likely will be a category 2. Probably, honestly, at the 2 a.m. advisory at this rate. So, yeah. But I'm not going to waste any more of y'all's time. I'm not going to just stay on here mumbling around. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. If you're in Florida, anywhere in Florida, please have your preparations completed. Preparations completed by Tuesday night. As hurricane force wind speeds, tropical storm force wind speeds could arrive as soon as extremely early Wednesday morning, potentially as early as 8 p.m. Tuesday night. So have those preparations. Honestly, if you can finish them tomorrow, that'd be fantastic. Try your best to finish your preparations tomorrow. So I appreciate all the mods on chat. I appreciate Proxy for the $50 donation. I appreciate, like I said, all the mods from on chat. Catman, Pete, Parliament, Legacy, Caleb. Thank you guys for modding chat. Thank you for everybody tuning in here. We almost hit 150 likes. We're at 138 likes. Thank you guys for helping me reach almost 4,000 people today, over 4,000 people yesterday. And I will see you guys in my, hopefully I'll end up doing a live stream Tuesday night from my phone. I mean, it's not going to be the best quality, and we'll see how it goes. It's going to be experimental, but hey, whatever it takes to keep you guys updated. I'm going to try my best. So I appreciate you guys tuning in once again. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your night. And, yeah, keep a very close eye on this thing. That's another thing. Make sure you're checking the National Hurricane Center at least every 3 hours if you live in Florida. Have a great rest of your night. Stay safe. Watch the severe weather in the tropics. Goodbye. Stay safe, watch severe weather in the tropics, and I'll see you guys in my next live stream. Have a great rest of your night. Good.